welcome to my tutelage. My name is Madeline, and I am a tutor, although I love to read and write, and today I am going to be writing in my Commonplace book. This is essentially a journal full of other people's words and thoughts. I've already put in quotes from The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, from Walking on Water by Madeleine L'Engle, and today we will be putting in quotes from Anne of Green Gables. I most recently read Anne of Green Gables in my much worn and much beloved copy that I've had for nearly 20 years, but it can be tedious trying to find quotes in a hardback book. So this time I thought I'd show how I use my Kindle to make the process a bit easier. I'm sure you already know that in a Kindle you can highlight the text and later access it by just clicking on the little note button right at the top. And there they all are, everything that I've highlighted in this particular Kindle copy of Anne of Green Gables. I have reread Anne of Green Gables and most of the rest of the series more times than probably any other book. And I am a chronic rereader, so that's saying a lot. There's something about autumn especially that makes me want to turn to the world of Anne Shirley, whether she's a young girl or in the later ones as she grows up and matures. I think that this is a time of year that especially calls for looking at the world the way that Anne does. There's something both about the vibrant beauty of autumn and its ephemeral quality. We know that it's only going to last a few weeks and then the world will turn all gray for many months here in the Northeast US. So I wanted Anne. Now I'd like to just share some of my favorite quotes that I recorded. It took many Commonplace sessions to get down all of my notes in my notebook, and this is definitely a briefer selection than I could have chosen. I've made up my mind to enjoy this drive. It's been my experience that you can nearly always enjoy things if you make up your mind firmly that you will. Of course, you must make it up firmly. Marilla Cuthbert had the glimmerings of a sense of humor, which is simply another name for a sense of fitness of things. I know I talk too much, but I am really trying to overcome it, and although I say far too much, yet if you only knew how many things I want to say and don't, you'd give me some credit for it. Well, anyway, when I am grown up, said Anne decidedly, I'm always going to talk to little girls as if they were too, and I'll never laugh when they use big words. I know from sorrowful experience how that hurts one's feelings. Ruby Gillis says when she grows up, she's going to have ever so many bows on a string and have them all crazy about her. But I think that would be too exciting. I'd rather have just one, in his right mind. That's the worst of growing up, and I'm beginning to realize it. The things you wanted so much when you were a child don't seem half so wonderful to you when you get them. In the mornings, I always think the mornings are best. But when evening comes, I think it's lovelier still. Young men are all very well in their place, but it doesn't do to drag them into everything, does it? For Anne, to take things calmly would have been to change her nature. All spirit and fire and dew as she was, the pleasures and pains of life came to her with trebled intensity. Marilla felt this, and was vaguely troubled over it, realizing that the ups and downs of existence would probably bear hardly on this impulsive soul, and not sufficiently understanding that the equally great capacity for delight might more than compensate. We are rich. Why, we have 16 years to our credit, and we're as happy as queens, and we've all got our imaginations, more or less. Look at that sea, girls, all silver and shadow and visions of things not seen. We couldn't enjoy its loveliness any more if we had millions of dollars and ropes of diamonds. I don't want to be anyone but myself, even if I go uncomforted by diamonds all my life. Don't give up all your romance, Anne, Matthew whispered shyly. A little of it is a good thing. Not too much, of course, but keep a little of it, Anne. Keep a little of it. I'm not a bit changed. Not really. I'm only just pruned down and branched out. The real me, back here, is just the same. It won't make a bit of difference where I go or how much I change outwardly. At heart, I shall always be your little Anne, who will love you and Matthew and dear Green Gables more and better every day of her life. I've done my best, and I begin to understand what is meant by the joy of the strife. Next to winning, the best thing is trying and failing. For we pay a price for everything we get or take in this world, and although ambitions are well worth having, they are not to be cheaply won, but exact their dues of work and self-denial, anxiety and discouragement. She's been a blessing to us, and there never was a luckier mistake than what Mrs. Spencer made. If it was luck, I don't believe it was any such thing. It was Providence, because the Almighty saw we needed her, I reckon. Well, now, I guess it wasn't a boy that took the Avery Scholarship, was it? It was a girl. My girl. My girl that I'm proud of. We resent the thought that anything can please us when someone we love is no longer here to share the pleasure with us. And we almost feel as if we were unfaithful to our sorrow when we find our interest in life returning to us. She had looked her duty courageously in the face and found it a friend, as duty ever is when we meet it frankly. I'm just as ambitious as ever, only I've changed the object of my ambitions. I'm going to be a good teacher, and I'm going to save your eyesight, Marilla. Besides, I mean to study at home here and take a little college course all by myself. Oh, and I've dozens of plans, Marilla. I've been thinking them out for a week. I shall give life here my best, and I believe it will give its best to me in return. When I left Queen's, my future seemed to stretch out before me like a straight road. I thought I could see along it for many a milestone. Now there's a bend in it. I don't know what lies around the bend, but I'm going to believe that the best does. It has a fascination of its own, that bend, Marilla. I wonder how the road beyond it goes, what there is of green glory and soft checkered lights and shadows, what new landscapes, what new beauties, what curves and hills and valleys further on. Anne's horizons had closed in since the night she had sat there after coming home from Queen's. But if the path set before her feet was to be narrow, she knew that flowers of quiet happiness would bloom along it. The joy of sincere work and worthy aspiration and congenial friendship were to be hers. Nothing could rob her of her birthright of fancy or her ideal world of dreams. And there was always the bend in the road. God's in his heaven, and all's right with the world, said Anne softly. Anne of Green Gables has simply the best ending that it could have. It is very bittersweet, with Matthew's death and Marilla's eye problems. Yet Anne shows that her dreaming has not made her frivolous or selfish. Instead, it has given her the strength to be who she needs to be for Marilla for this time. So she postpones her college scholarship and instead becomes a local teacher and commits to taking care of Marilla. This selfless, beautiful heroine inspires me in ways I can't begin to tell you. But I think that even more than the beauty and sweetness of the book, is why I keep coming back to it. Anne Shirley is who I want to be. So that's all for today. Until next time, this has been my tutelage.